When you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in that life of gratitude, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide. Be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Hey, welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton, the apostle of appreciation, coming to you from the gratitude epicenter of the planet, Summit, New Jersey. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So we're delighted to have you here. By the way, thank you to all our gratitude community that tunes in every week. You're making us the #1 gratitude show on LinkedIn, and we couldn't be more grateful. We always say, give us 30 minutes. We'll give you 30 minutes of great information, inspiration, and a roadmap to a life of gratitude at work and at home. And it's all brought to you by the amazing people of the Methods Network. We're so grateful for the great production value. If you're going to do stuff online, there's only one place to go. It's the Methods Network, and it's Brent Klein. You're going to want to take a screenshot here to learn more about Methods of and all their training and all the courses that are there. Marshall Goldsmith, who's one of the world's great executive coach, if not the greatest. Sally Helgeson, helping women rise. Hortense Le Gentil, who talks about aligning your life and work. Martin Lindstrom, one of the great marketers that I've ever met. And I even have a course there on teamwork. It's a great platform. It's a great place to go if you're looking for self-improvement. Well, we always have this international group that's joined us. We've got Scylla from Kenya, Mohammed from Pakistan, and it's going to be so much fun to introduce you to my dear and good friend, our guest on Leading with Gratitude Live today, Garry Ridge. Let me tell you a little bit about his amazing story. Garry joined WD-40 in 1987, became the CEO in 1997. He's passionate about the learning and empowering organizational culture that he's created. He is the lead story in our book, Leading with Gratitude. An author himself in 2009, he co-authored a book with Ken Blanchard, outlining his effective leadership techniques titled, Helping People Win at Work, Don't Mark My Paper, Help Me Get an A. His latest book is a gem. It just came out this month, The Unexpected Learning Moment, and we're going to talk about that today. He's a native of Australia. He's living in beautiful San Diego. He's a member of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches. He is smart. He is funny. He is engaging. We both have the same barber. He is my dear and good friend. His name is Garry Ridge. Garry, welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on the show again today.
Hey, g'day, Chess. I just want to let you know that I did read the protocol for dress for the show, and I did visit Dr. Gillette this morning to ensure that I look spick and span as you do. So it's great to be with you.
Yeah, I have to admit, I even shaved today knowing that you were going to be on the show. So, it's interesting for those of you tuning in. I'm such a huge fan of Garry Ridge and the company, to the point where I don't leave home without a can of WD-40. This is my travel size, and I take it everywhere I go, as you do with your.
I don't leave home without my carrot.
So your new book, and it's so funny, I had it right here in front of me. What did I do with it? Here it is, The Unexpected Learning Moment. I love the philosophy of WD-40. They say we don't make mistakes, we have learning moments. And so, Garry, as a look back over everything we've been through in the pandemic, has put this wonderful little book together. I love that it's with lots of actionable items. Tell us a little bit about, the listeners in, what inspired you to put this in a book and get it out so quickly?
Well, we had a lot of opportunity during COVID to reflect on the things that we really did learn. And I wanted to make sure that we shared those out there. And, I'm very fortunate. I have a great writing partner, Martha Finney, who you know well, who helped me put this together. So I thought, I really want to share some of the positives out of this roller coaster journey.
I was really struck by the foreword, or the dedication, where you talk about surrounding yourself with great mentors and great role models. One of the things that, if you spend much time with Garry, is he's really a humble leader. He's created a phenomenal company and a phenomenal culture. And yet, even in your dedication, you're dedicating it to the people that helped you on your journey. Why was that so important for you that you put that right first thing in the book?
Oh, well, I'm consciously incompetent and probably wrong and roughly right at most things. So I need all the help I can get, Chester. And the dedication was to my dear friend and mentor, Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager. If it wasn't for Ken and for his love of servant leadership and his just humble giving over the years. I met him when I went to school at USD. He was my professor. I was then on his board for 10 years. He's 82 now. I play golf, 9 holes of golf with him, a couple of times a month. But I just owe Ken Blanchard a lot. And what is it for? For his just, empathetic giving. And that's why I needed to do
it. Always so gracious. As we start to talk about these, unexpected learning moments and so on, I know you're going to have questions for Garry. We've got Janice Perkins, who's in our question command center in lovely Wichita, Kansas. And she'll be monitoring the inbox. I love that you waved to the crowd, one of my favorite people. And so put it in the chat box and ask Garry questions, and maybe even share with us, what are some of the unexpected learnings that you had as you went through the pandemic. I love the way that you sequence this book, with Martha, because after your dedication, you go right to the WD-40 values. And it's really interesting. You say, not only do you have to have values, you have to have them in the right order. Because, if you've got, 10 values, you may not remember all 10. You'll remember the first one, right? And your first one is, we value doing the right thing. And you and I have talked about this a little bit. That first value, how did that come about? Was that something that you instituted? Did the tribe come up with that? Tell me the story about arriving on that value and making it number one.
Thanks, Chester. Yeah, so 20 some years ago, when I was doing my master's degree, and I was introduced to the power of having a sequential set of values that are there to protect and set people free, was really important. And we started by getting a group of our tribe together and talking about what was important to us and what would be really important to us going forward, as we went from being, a US kind of based organization. Back then, about 80% of our revenue was in the US, to living our dream, which was to take the blue and yellow can with the little red top to the world. And we all agreed that because we were going to go into different cultures around the world, doing the right thing as it meant to us was really important. So not only do we use the words doing the right thing, as you know, Ches, each one of our values has a description of what that really means. The other reason you have to have hierarchical values is so you don't cherry pick the value to meet the current circumstance. So in our values, any decision you make, you need to go through each one of them and decide, are we living the essence of that value? Our second value is we value creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships, which absolutely leads directly into what our just cause is at the organization, which is to make life better at work and at home. So really important. The foundation of setting people free, of letting go of micromanagement, is a clearly defined set of hierarchical values.
Yeah, I just think the way that you set people free is remarkable, and it shows up in your retention and your innovation, and not least, your stock price, which is also important. Um, it's really interesting to me, when we interviewed you for our book, Leading with Gratitude, which the show is based on. It was how you experienced the last economic downturn and how people were asking, "Are you okay, Garry?" When really they were asking, "Are we okay?" And you used that great line. You said, as I looked at it, I thought, well, let's not waste a good crisis. What can we learn from this and what can we go forward? And I love the way your book, and by the way, I ordered mine right away, and so should you. Unexpected Learning Moment by Garry Ridge. Easy read. It's on Amazon. It's everywhere, fine books are sold. What I love about what you did with the book, Garry, is you divided it into two sections. Part one, how it started, and then part two, how's it going? So I guess my next question to you is, how did it start and how's it going?
Well, again, thank you, Ches, for highlighting this. But again, I think how it started was really understanding that we're nothing without our people. Aristotle said in 384 BC, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. And really that is so simple. And I was flying on a plane 20 some years ago, and I was reading some of the Dalai Lama's work, and he said, our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. And what became very clear to me, is most organizations are hurting people. Our good friend Hubert Joly's book, who just released his new book, he did some research or quoted some research from the ADP Research Institute. They surveyed 1,900 people in 19 countries around the world, and they found that employee engagement was down to 16%. And whose fault is that? Well, we know whose fault it is. It's Al, the soul-sucking CEO, who creates these toxic environments. And I didn't think that was fair. So that's where it started. It started at being dedicated to the people. How's it going? When we look back, thank goodness we went through the crisis in 2008, because we were really prepared. And the first thing we did back in March 2020 is we said there are three things we're going to focus on. Number one, the safety and the well-being of our people will be our number one objective. Doing the right thing to us is that, because without our people, we will never get through this. Number two, we will take care of and service our customers. And number three is we will learn and thrive when we move out of this, because we believe this too will end. We didn't know what the ending would look like, but we believed it would be true. And we have a very high employee engagement. And during the pandemic, we went out and we did an interim survey, because I was concerned we might be draining cultural equity, And one of the questions that came back that blew me away was the percentage of people who were excited about the company's future was higher in the middle of the pandemic than it was at the beginning. And we asked why. And it came back as, if we can get through this together, we can get through anything together, because we kept our tribal promise, a group of people who come together to protect and feed each other. And I just got goosebumps when I got that research back, and I went, wow, does this not prove that if you really do care about your people and you do the right thing, you can do it?
Hey, we're back. Leading with Gratitude Live with Chester Elton and my good friend Garry Ridge. Garry, you got to admit, it's hysterical that we're talking about your new book, The Unexpected Learning Moment, and we had an unexpected learning moment when the system crashed.
I thought you staged that. I was thinking, how brilliant is Chester?
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you.
You can't hear me.
Unexpected learning moment. Okay,
Unexpected
hang on. I don't know
moment.
what's
Let me
going on
do
here.
and unmute. Does that
Let's
help?
try
Can you hear me now?
this. Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah,
I'm
I
back.
can hear you. Okay, great. Can you hear me?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, excellent. Another unexpected learning moment. How fun is that? We're talking about Gary's new book, The Unexpected Learning Moment: Lessons in Leading a Thriving Culture Through the Lockdown in 2020. You know, Gary, you talked about, for those of you that were with us before we got interrupted, how your culture really came through, through all this, and that your engagement levels were higher than ever because people said if they could get through this, they could get through anything, right? And I'm of this philosophy, and I know you'll agree, but I'd like you to expound on it, that when you come to a crisis, you really find out what kind of culture you have. If you've got a strong culture, it'll get stronger. If you've got a bad culture, it's destructive. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, Ches. Culture is definitely a competitive advantage. And, it's, again, if you have a strong culture, you have what I call a high will of the people. And you can have the best strategy in the world. But if the will of the people is low, then your outcome is going to be less than if the will of the people is high. And particularly in a culture where, I talk in the book about the 4 pillars. I know you mentioned that, of care, candor, accountability, and responsibility. And those 4 pillars are important. The first one is care. And what do I mean by that? You have to love your people enough to be able to reward them, appreciate them, and show them gratitude. But you also have to be caring enough to be brave enough to be able to redirect them if their behaviors in the organization need redirecting. So it's not just the hug that's important, but it's that true dedication to wanting to help people step into the best version of their personal self. The second one is candor. No lying, no faking, no hiding. I believe most people don't lie. I believe people fake and hide. Why do they fake and hide? Because of fear. Why do they have fear? Because they're not in an organization where mistakes can be learning moments and where they're treated with respect and dignity. The next one is accountability. Most organizations are not clear about what we're going to hold each other accountable for. And how can we appreciate each other's deliverable if we don't know what we expect? And then the last one is responsibility. And we wrote a pledge, and I've shared it with you before. It's called the Maniac Pledge. And it says, I'm responsible for taking action, asking questions, getting answers, and making decisions. I won't wait for someone to tell me. If I need to know, I am responsible for asking. I have no right to be offended that I didn't get this sooner. And if I'm doing something others should know about, I'm responsible for telling them.
Yeah, I love the detail that you go through. That you don't just say it, you give it a definition and it becomes a common language. Your 4 pillars, I love the chapter head. It said, where there's no friction, there is flow, which is perfect for WD-40, right? No friction and you have the flow. Talk to me a little bit about, we just finished our book, Adrian and I, on anxiety at work. How did you at WD-40? There you go. There it is. Thank you so much. How did you at WD-40 tamp down anxiety? What was your strategy around that and reassuring people that things were going to get better and that everything would be okay?
I love in your 8 areas of anxiety, the one I love them all. The one that just hit me in the eyes and the perfectionism has become the enemy of getting things done. And during the pandemic, nothing was perfect. It was ultimately probably wrong and roughly right. So I guess, again, we really said to people, we're going to screw up. We're not going to be, it's not going to be perfect. And it's okay. As long as we're living our values, that's great. And the other one I love is a lack of clarity about prospects for career growth and development. A lot of people were just scared that they were going to lose their job. Forget about career growth. I mean, it was non-existent. So, your number 3 one was really, really powerful, where we went out and said, nobody's going to lose their job here. We have never laid anybody off in our history, because in tough times, we know what to do. We didn't do it in 2008. In fact, we actually employed more people this year. More people joined our tribe this year than in most recent years, because of our success. We're having the best year in the company's history, and it's all because of our tribe. So, I think those 2 were really powerful, and thank you. And as you know, I'm having Adrian come out in October, and he's going to do a workshop, not just with our leaders, but with our board of directors on anxiety, building relationships, coming back together again, because our board hasn't met in person since December 2019. We've got there's a lot of anxiety hanging in there. We've got to get rid of it. So Adrian's coming out to do that workshop with us.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Garry. We just did that workshop together in Houston with some restaurateurs. And it was so interesting. And I love that you're bringing your board in, because initially the conversation is, oh, yeah, my people are anxious. My people. Well, the more we talked about it, the conversation changed to, yes, my people. And, oh, by the way, me too. Anxiety doesn't know titles, right? We all suffer from it. Well, listen, we've got some great questions. So we're going to throw it to JP in the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas. She's got some great questions from our gratitude community. Go ahead, JP.
Hey, Garry, there's a question from Mohammed in Saudi Arabia, and he asked, what's the biggest challenge you've encountered with a competitor in your industry?
Interesting question. We play the infinite game. So what we think about is not necessarily our competitors, but how do we get better every day? We are the only global brand. So I guess one of our competitive advantages is our globalism. But I think you have to have worthy rivals. But we don't necessarily focus in on how a competitor is attacking, more how do we lead the race, and that's more important to us.
Great. You've got a couple more questions too, JP. Go ahead.
So Edward from England asked, what was the move that you've made?
During the pandemic? Well, the most critical move I ever made in my life was getting used to and respecting and now loving the 3 most powerful words I've ever learned in my life. And they are, I don't know. And once I got comfortable with I don't know, the whole world opened up to me. So as far as I'm concerned, that was the most powerful, critical learning decision I ever made, was getting comfortable with I am consciously incompetent, and I'm probably wrong and roughly right in most circumstances, and I need all the help I can get.
I love quoting my dad, as you know, and he used to say that all the time. He'd say, you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. And he said, the good news for you, Chess, is you can virtually walk into any room and you're going to be fine. So he had a really dry sense of humor. One more question, JP, and I love this one about the tribe. Go ahead.
Hey, Garry, I'd also love for you to repeat your tribal promise that you quoted a few minutes ago. But this question is about, what do you believe the characteristics of a successful tribe are?
Great. Yeah, that's easy. Our tribal promise is a group of people that come together to protect and feed each other. And the attributes of a tribe, we actually have them and we talk about them. When we call ourselves a tribe, we're not talking about a particular group. We're talking about tribal behaviors in total. And the ability of a tribal leader is to be a learner and a teacher. So the number 1 attribute is learning and teaching. The number 2 is values. The number 3 is to be future focused. The number 4 is to recognize you need specialist skills. The number 5 is to be warriors. And the number 6 is to be absolutely committed to celebration and gratitude.
Excellent. Time for a commercial for our wonderful sponsor, the folks at Methods of. you invest in your tribe, you invest in your leaders. You do it so well at WD-40. We would love for you to take a screenshot here and say, go to methodsof.com. Great lessons on how to invest in your leadership journey. And because you're listening to our live show, as well as we make it into a podcast, we've got a special offer for you. So when you go into the checkout, if you just type in Gratitude 2021, you get a 50% discount on the courses that you're interested in. So take a screenshot. It's methodsof.com. A 50% discount if you just type in Gratitude 2021. Garry, I do love the fact that you absolutely do lead with gratitude and looking back with gratitude. By far, as you might guess, my favorite chapter was that chapter on, looking back with gratitude. And was that hard to do for some of your tribal people, or was that kind of already baked into your culture?
I think on reflection, if we hadn't asked them to really, they may have been overwhelmed with the hardships that we've all been through. Everybody has been through their own personal hero's journey. The person that we said, see you Monday morning to back in March 2020 is not the same person that we're going to physically say, hey, good morning, it's great to see you. So we actually went out to our tribe and I asked them to share with me the things they've learned and what they've become more grateful for during the time, which started the conversation. So I think if we hadn't have asked and we hadn't encouraged, it would have been hard. But because we asked and we encouraged, and as you know, Ches, early in this, we had you and Adrian come in and do a whole webinar for us on gratitude. So early on, we had people thinking more about what am I grateful for during this period.
I love that, starting the conversation, asking the question. We're talking to Garry Ridge. He's the CEO of WD-40, of his new book, The Unexpected Learning Moment, Lessons in Leading a Thriving Culture Through the Lockdown in 2020. Highly recommended. I got my copy right away, and you should too. Garry, tell us where people can follow you and learn more about you. You dedicated the book to your favorite mentor, Ken Blanchard. He's teaching at the university, and now you're teaching at the university. So you've really come full cycle. But give us a heads up. Where can people find more about you and about WD-40 and your wonderful book?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been actually teaching at the University of San Diego for 15 years. This is my 15th year, and you come into our class and do a virtual session on gratitude. And in fact, this year we are actually issuing anxiety at work as one of the texts to the class, and so everybody will be using that in the class. LinkedIn is probably the best place. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a website where it's kind of a storage house, if you will, for stuff that I do, but it's www.thelearningmoment.net. And of course, you can find everything about the wonderful tribe at WD-40 at www.wd40company.com. Go to our careers page, look for opportunities there. We're always anxious to welcome people who want to live our values to our tribe.
That's wonderful. Well, listen, we did have an unexpected learning moment. We got interrupted. We're back on live and in color. It's time to wrap up. So if you wanted somebody, people that are listening, if you wanted them to remember one thing about what you learned and what you wrote about and what we talked about today, what is that one thing you want them to remember, Garry?
Empathy. Make sure that empathy eats your ego doesn't eat your empathy.
Really well said. Well, again, we're brought to you by the wonderful people at the Methods Network. If you're looking to do a great show, there's only one place to go, and there's only one guy to talk to. His name is Brent Klein. And Brent, you don't put up your phone number again. This is it's like, go to methodsof.com. There's great production. There's great lessons. You can get a 50% discount by just putting in Gratitude 2021. And we love that you joined our show. Well, listen, our show is based on Leading with Gratitude, the book. We've got a wonderful little commercial from our publisher at Harper Business. Alan Mullally said, I love this book. There's a not so subtle call to action. Buy me, buy me, buy me. Well, listen, let's bring the team up here, Brent. There's Christy, who's been monitoring stuff in Atlanta, Georgia. We got JP in Wichita, Kansas. We got Gary in San Diego. I'm coming to you live in color from Summit, New Jersey. Brent, who's the ghost of the machine, is in Austin, Texas. You know, we've got a new tradition, Gary. Brent turns up the music. It's your best dance moves. Hey, be grateful, be kind, be observant. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Gary. Right up.